The Red Raiders are in the mix for several talented players in the 2025 class, including a 4-star edge out of Houston. In today's video, we'll break down the latest on several players Texas Tech is prioritizing in the 2025 class, discuss a decommitment in the 2025 class, and well, hey, Wes Welker, you're going into the Ring of Honor. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and if you're excited about Thomas Howard, Andre Tillman, and Wes Welker being inducted into the Texas Tech Football Ring of Honor, all I want you to do is do one thing for me, just one. Like the video. 3 of the most talented players in Texas Tech football program history. I know Wes Welker is the most known, and rightfully so, with how great he was on the field, actually leaving Texas Tech as the all-time leading receiver, and now he will have a special place up in the Ring of Honor alongside Thomas Howard as well as Andre Tillman. So if you're excited for those gentlemen to be inducted into the Ring of Honor, just simply like the video. All right, let's start with a decommitment on this one. We got TJ Tillman, a wide receiver in the class of 2025, a 3-star wide receiver, I might add, from Amarmillo, decommitting from the Red Raiders. He had actually committed all the way back in December of 2023, but on Monday, June 17th, he announced on social media that he will reopen his recruitment. It's 100% open, were his exact words, and decommit from the Scarlet and Black. All right, let's talk about 3 names that really stand out in terms of Texas Tech is heavily in the mix for these guys. We will start on the offensive line with R.J. Lee, an absolute behemoth of a 17-year-old. 3-star offensive lineman from Second Baptist in Houston. He stands 6'8", 335. 6'8", 335. Just a behemoth. He was on campus this past weekend and has multiple Power 4 offers, including the Cougars of Houston and also the Eagles of Boston College. He has set his commitment date for June 24th. So at the time of this recording, a week from today, i.e. it came out on June 17th. And from what I have seen from him in the limited film, he's got a Big 12 body right now. I mean, again, 6'8", 335, definitely needs to work on his feet and everything. But in terms of the traits you can't teach 6'8". He's got that. He's got solid footwork for his size, but he needs to develop it moving forward. He's got the body right now, but the technique and the footwork need to develop, rightfully so. He's 17 years old, but he's an interesting guy, in my opinion, where, yes, he is just a 3-star, but the traits you can't teach are there. And if you got the proper coaching, and everybody thinks that Coach McGuire, no, not Joey, Clay, there on the offensive line is the right guy for the job. I think he could come in and potentially, if R.J. Lee does commit to the Scarlet and Black, be coached up really well and be a potential impact guy on the Texas Tech offensive line here in the next 2, maybe 3 years. All right, maybe the 2 biggest names being talked about right now in the Texas Tech recruiting space on the football side. We'll start with the 3-star linebacker, Kaleb KB Burns. He sets his announcement date. He is a 6'1", 205 linebacker from Houston at Cy Falls High School. He was on campus this past weekend for the Red Raiders, and while on campus, actually canceled his official visit that he had on his docket, i.e. his schedule. He plans to announce his decision on July 1st. He has visited multiple Texas schools, including Baylor, SMU, TCU. There's other schools in the mix, such as Florida and Washington as well. But Burns is an absolute sideline-to-sideline linebacker with jets, okay? He competes in track because, well, everybody does that Texas Tech recruits damn near, it seems like. He runs in the 100 and 200 meter. And also, funny enough, mentioned a guy that we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in a tweet here in just a second. In Smith Orogbo, the 4-star edge that you saw in the thumbnail right there, saying, what's the word? WTW on a tweet on Twitter. And there's a lot of buzz around those 2 guys and a lot of smoke around those 2 guys in terms of committing to the Scarlet and Black. We'll go a little bit more in depth here on Orogbo here in just a second. But Burns is a guy that is super interesting to me. And as you can see at the bottom of your screen, I mentioned that Pitt visit that he canceled. But the Red Raiders are in a solid spot to potentially land him. Now, there's steep competition within the state of Texas as well as the aforementioned Texas schools, but also Florida and Washington. I think the Red Raiders will have a tough time getting this commitment, but as it stands right now, from everything I've heard, they're in a really good spot to do so. Just going to have to wait and see on July 1st, because truthfully, I think Burns is one of those guys where maybe he doesn't impact the, starting two in terms of linebackers for the Red Raiders day one, but I think he can be a guy that comes in and makes an impact on special teams with his speed and really develops into something to where he could be a starting linebacker for the Red Raiders by his second or third year. All right, let's talk about the biggest name right now when it comes to Texas Tech football recruiting. I just mentioned him. It is four-star edge Smith Orogbo from Alif Hastings down in Houston. He has officially set his commitment date on July 1st as well. And now some of those, people on the internet like to piece things together. There's also another big thing happening for Texas Tech on July 1st, at least supposed to happen. Shout out to Adidas. Patrick Mahomes. That's the date that's supposed to launch. But we can talk about that in a later video. As for Smith or Orogbo, might as well just say his whole name. He's 6'4", 220 from Alif Hastings down there in Houston. He is ranked as the 26th overall player in the 2025 class, according to On3. You heard that right. The 26th overall player in the 2025 class, according to On3. Now, he was on campus not this last weekend, but the previous weekend, the weekend of June 8th. He's a long, athletic freak off of the edge, guy that has tremendously long arms. And again, I don't like to put, comparisons on guys out of high school, but watching him in terms of the long arms, I'm pretty sure y'all know where I'm going to go with this. He looks like a smaller Tyree Wilson. Will he ever be Tyree Wilson's height and weight? No, probably not. But he's got some traits that Tyree had in terms of those quick arms, even though they're like pterodactyl type arms out there. He just absolutely manhandles guys at the high school ranks. I mean, it's so much fun to watch him on film. Now, I think he could be an instant rotation guy for the Red Raiders off the edge as a true freshman. Again, 26th overall player, according to On3, in the class of 2025. His final four are Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma, and Washington. He's gone on official visits to all four. Pretty big company for the Red Raiders. Now, there are some positives in the Red Raiders' favor as of right now. Multiple national recruiting analysts and even directors for high major sites have crystal ball or use their recruiting prediction machines, whatever they may be called, on their respective sites to predict Smith to go to the Red Raiders. Okay? This would be one of, if not the biggest commitment Texas Tech has in the 2025 cycle. The other one could be potential high-level target like a Micah Strickland if that were to happen. But this is definitely a name to monitor if you are a Texas Tech fan, as his announcement is set for, July 1st. That's when he will be announcing his commitment, and Texas Tech is firmly involved. And I mentioned it a little bit already, breaking down his game and giving you just the bare minimum of details there in terms of the foundation of what you need to know. He could be the most impactful player the Red Raiders land in this cycle. And I mean, I think he could play right away in the rotation. Now, could he be the starter? That's TBD. Let's see what happens if he were to commit to Texas Tech. But I think there's a guy that could be a high-level edge rusher for the Red Raiders into his sophomore, junior-level campaign and really be one of those next big names in the Tim DeRuyter defense. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. If you haven't already, like the video and then go down to the comments section and type TTU. If you're excited to have Thomas Howard, Andre Tillman, and Wes Welker be inducted into the Texas Tech Football Ring of Honor. It will happen during the North Texas game. Kirby Hoka announced that on Monday, June 17th. So shout out to those three gentlemen, Texas Tech legends. I mean, Wes Welker is one of the most, maybe the most known slot receiver of all time. And of course, he reps the scarlet and black tremendously well. All right, I am RC Maxfield reminding you, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube and the most engaging group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube and the Back to 12 podcast channel.